Allah adın zikredelim evvela, vacip oldur cümle işte her kula. Çok değerli misafirlerimiz, Sayın Esin Çelebim, değerli ilim adamları, sevgili öğrencilerimiz, gönül dostlarımız, hepinizi saygıyla, sevgiyle selamlıyorum efendim. Üsküdar Üniversitesi Tasavvuf Araştırmaları Enstitüsü olarak düzenlediğimiz uluslararası yoğunlaştırılmış Tasavvuf Araştırmaları Okulu'nun programının ait bu paneli teşrifleriniz için teşekkür ediyorum. Gerçekten heyecanlıyım, mazur görün. Çünkü yıllardır rüyalarda görülen, arzu edilen büyük bir amaçta, idealde bu tip çalışmalar yapmak. Türkiye içinde tasavvuf çalışmalarını akademik seviyede yürütmek ve bunu uluslararası platforma taşımak ve uluslararası bu alanda çalışan kişilerle irtibatların artması, paylaşımların artması, birlikte çalışmaların yapılması, ortaklaşa adımlar atılması, bu yaz okulu hepsinin başlangıcı oluyor. Cenab-ı Hak bizlere böyle bir imkanı verdiği için şükrediyoruz. Elhamdülillah diyoruz.
So we are so thankful for such a blessing, and may Allah continue this blessing. All these courses in the framework of this program includes 3 panels, and today we will be realizing the second one. We have very distinguished speakers, professors. I would like to leave the platform to the sultans of words and would like to invite our invaluable speakers to the stage. Cemalnur Sargut hocam, Sachiko Murata, Ernst, James Morris, William Chittick ve Mahmut Erol Kılıç lütfen. Please. Is it on right now? Thank you. For years, as our beloved teacher said, one of our dreams have come true right now. And really, the most distinguished Sufi scholars across the globe, those who endeavor to spread Islam around the world, and those who endeavor to teach the smiling face of Islam to the world, both locally and internationally, will be talking and will be working on the improvements that have been done in this field so far. And most of all, without getting stuck to these things that we have done, they will be talking about what else can we do to further research, to further improve in this field. So anything in this field is beautiful, and inshallah we will be able to come up with a common method in order to disseminate Sufism in the world, all together with everyone's collaboration. What else can we do in the chairs internationally, and most importantly in this institute, since this is a baby institute right now, but it's progressing so rapidly. What else can we do? What are our faults? What are the correct things we have been doing? We have to understand these very truthfully, and I'm hoping that such panels will actually lead us through the right path. And during the summer, I would like to thank every one of you who attend here. Recently, I mean, in the old days, we would phone everyone and ask them to come and join these panels in summers, but this time people are calling us, asking us to accept them. And this year we have international students as well who really truly accept this place as a center of Sufi studies. And I would like to once again repeat that everything that happens here I owe to my teacher Kenan Arifai, because he was the one who actually drew our map, and I can once again realize that this road he actually led us through is the right way, is the rightest way. And Sufism should be actually taught in now academies, and Allah is also now helping us, because we have very, very valuable speakers and professors working here, visiting us. Sinan Hoca also works in this field and support us, and everyone around here is a very close friend of mine. We start together and we will end it together, and we will get the reward in the other world with these brothers and sisters and my friends they are as well. I owe special thanks to Mahmut, Erol Hoca as well. And I'm sure he doesn't need my compliments, because the struggle, the endeavor that he does for tasawwuf, I really appreciate it with all my respect. If I were given the chance and the power, I would take him on my back and I would take him to Hajj. Mahmut Hoca, thank you so much. With your permission, I would like to start from my right side and would love to leave the floor to the teacher of teachers, to the teacher of Aşk, to William Chittick. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this very warm welcome. I'm delighted to see so many people interested in Sufism. I must warn you that I don't know quite what I'm doing in this panel, since we have no instructions other than to be here, and when she asks, we obey. So I guess from what I just heard, perhaps I should say something about Divine Love, my newest book. My newest book in Turkish, that is. Several of you came forward with copies for me to sign. I hadn't seen it before today. I'm delighted to see it. What I'm doing in this book is to, well, many things, but my basic intention was to rectify the very wrong idea about Islam that you have in the West, which is that, oh, Islam has some gifted people, you know, like Mevlana, but he's the exception. And Mevlana came out of nowhere, and he really belongs in California. Should have been born there. For some reason, he was born in Anatolia years ago, but it has nothing to do with Islam. This is the idea you have of Mevlana in the United States, mostly. I mean, of course, scholars are not like that, but the popular opinion of Mevlana is that he's just a great lover who speaks the language of everyone, which is true, but they miss the point of what he's teaching. But what I wanted to show, since I've written about Mevlana, I have 3 books about him, I wanted to show that Mevlana is not an exception. Mevlana is the rule. He is part of a tradition which precedes him for centuries. He's just making explicit what other people weren't so clear about. The language of poetry, Persian poetry in particular, is very, very good for expressing Tawheed, beauty. God is beautiful and he loves beauty. Mevlana is one of the greatest poets of history, no question. So his language is able to get across ideas which, if you read them in Ibn Arabi, for example, it confuses you. But when you read them in Mevlana, it becomes so clear. But, so this is, you know, for those of us who are scholars in the field, we know Mevlana is great. But we also know that most people have no idea that he's just continuing a tradition. So I've tried to bring to light a few of his predecessors, some of the figures who wrote about love and the relationship between God and man in terms of love from the earlier tradition. I started out with the idea of doing equal parts Arabic and Persian, presenting texts. I ended up giving preference to Persian because once these ideas are presented in Persian, I'm talking 1,000 years ago, it means the scholar is speaking to people who don't know Arabic very well or don't know any Arabic. And therefore they try to be much more explicit and clear about what they're saying. You can read the same ideas in Arabic, but it's very concise, very dense, difficult. But in Persian, they explain in detail, and in beautiful detail. Persian is a very beautiful language. Parsi shekarest, as they say. Persian is sugar, and it really is. So this is, in brief, what this new book is about, presenting text, showing you how discussion of love is the center of the Islamic tradition. It's not something added on later. It's there from the Quran, from the Hadith, and from the great early figures. So, in brief.
Hocam acizane sizde ilimle başlayan
in my humble opinion, you start with knowledge, but you have a language that tells us about divine love, divine aşk. I'm sure that one of your main targets is to introduce Ibn Arabi. I have a thought like this. How can you actually, for example, divine love according to Aşk, divine love according to Ibn Arabi, divine love according to Mevlana, and I'm sure you are combining these views. You have a saying which impressed me a lot. Is it Mevlana who was impressed by Ibn Arabi or vice versa? And that was a question asked to you, and you said, why would they be influenced by each other, by one another? They are actually inspired from the same source. So you have actually make us get rid of these comparisons, thinking which one is greater, which one is not. So, or who is greater, who is not. So this is a very important contribution, and you have always supported me, and I'm extremely grateful for that. When I wanted to initiate a chair in China, some of my friends were kind of, biased, and some actually made fun of me. Only Sachiko and William Chittick, just over one night, they supported me and helped me, enabled me to initiate this chair in China. So all of these professors here are different manifestations of Allah. So in this era, then we need to express love, express aşk in these ways. So this is one of his missions and tasks, and I'm so grateful for this.
Well, I am the same boat with him now. I have not prepared anything. But since I am working on Islam written in classical Chinese, and which is related to Canada High Chair in Peking University. So, and then I would like to talk a little bit about the latest book, which is a translation of the first classical text of Islam in Chinese, which was published in 1642. And this author is a Sufi sheikh, and then we think he is influenced by Ibn Arabi. He doesn't say anything about it, but he's a sheikh. And then the goal of his teaching is that convey Islamic teaching, spiritual teaching to the children who lost the language because many people migrated from, in his case from Persia. So she said, well, in order to make those people understand what Islam teaches, I need to use the language which people are familiar with. So in this, he uses the language of Confucius, Mencius, sometimes Buddha, sometimes Lao Tzu. And then he says that the goal of learning meaning to know yourself, because knowing yourself is to forget yourself. If you forget yourself, you know God. And then in this, he says that if you wanted to rule the country, you have to know how to govern the family. If you wanted to have to govern the family, you have to know how to rule your heart. In order to learn how to rule your heart, you have to cultivate your body. Cultivating body meaning your personal life. And then it goes right, this cultivation of your body, of your personal life, is the beginning of the way, and then end of it is to forget about yourself. By forgetting about yourself, you learn what God is. So he says that he is completely based on the Confucian teachings. He says that the purpose of learning is to learn how to become human being, how to become human beings, meaning perfect human beings or sage. And then it mentions, after Confucius, the most important sage said, the purpose of learning is to find your lost heart. So this lost heart you are, see, in Islam, it's an effect of fihi and ruhi, that is a divine spirit breathes into ourselves that you have to find, that a journey. And then he goes how to cultivate yourself one by one. And then in another, in this book, he has 40 chapters, one of which is way of friendship. And Confucius takes to have a friend, real friend, is the most important things. And one day says that most important thing to have a friend, because a friend will help you so that you do not forget the present moment. And then, well, it takes a long time to explain everything, and I'm hoping just in the next few days I explain more about it. So having friendship, as Dojawan Hojo says, having friendship is the most important thing. And I am so happy to be friended with you.
Efendim benim de Çin'de gördüğüm hocamın buyurduğu gibi lisan problemi.
Presented is the problem of language. So in order to be able to grasp, comprehend the Quran, of course, first of all, we have to understand Turkish.
O zaman kelimenin kökenine
We
inmek
also need to
çok rahat oluyor
understand the
ve
Arabic.
dolayısıyla da iç manaları hakkında fikir yürütebilir hale geçiyor insan. Kendi kendine öğretiyor. Çin'de insanlar İngilizceyi bile zor konuşuyorlar ve Çince bilmedikleri için de Çinceyi yani Çince Kur'an'ı bilmedikleri için de Kur'an'ı bazı kalıplar içerisinde almış kabul etmişler. O da güzel bir şey. Fakat hocalarımızın yaptığı çalışmalar Çinlilerin kendi İslam mürşitlerinden ve alimlerinden onların lisanıyla öğretmek. Ve biz bunun sonucunu şimdi yaptığımız sempozyumda gördük. Ateist öğrencilerin nasıl İslam'ın peşinde koştuklarını, enstitüye nasıl devam ettiklerini gördük. İki hocamızın da çok kıymetli vakitlerini lütfedip Çin'deki ilk hocalığı kabul ederek orada çok faydalı bir çalışma yaptıklarını da gördük. Müjdeli haberde mesela Uygur Türkleri hiçbir üniversiteye kabul edilmiyor orada. Pekin Üniversitesi falan etmiyordu. Çok şükür hocalarımız oranların üniversitesinde de paneller, dersler vererek ayrıca da ilk defa Çin'de Uygur Türklerinin misafir olarak
Turks were invited and they were given the permission to be able to attend the courses in Peking University. So the Chinese Muslims had the opportunity to be able to given the chance to learn their own reality through this chair. So I would like to thank both of them once again. They are both beautiful manifestations of Allah, and I'm so grateful to have two beloved friends as such. Now I would like to return to another brother. We have been sisters and brothers since 2000. We shared the same meaning. We actually got focused on the same targets, and he is extremely serving for Islam, Ernst. So let's listen to him now.
Thank you very much. It's a great privilege and an honor to be here with you and with this company at the table. I was asked to make some remarks in the Institute this summer about methodologies for the study of Sufism. And as a member of a faculty of religious studies in one of the only American universities that trains people in the PhD to specialize in Islamic studies, I have a couple of remarks to make about this process, which may be helpful for thinking about the future. First, I would say there is not a special methodology for the study of Sufism which is different from other subjects. Why do I say this? We need the methods of the humanities and the social sciences. We need the methods of literary study to enable people to dive deeply into the texts and to understand the historical and intellectual context from which they came. We need to understand the readers of the texts. We need to understand the institutions which made it possible for them to be produced. And there's a variety of other issues like this. And I think that this use of multiple disciplines is extremely important because, on the one hand, if you isolate a subject from the rest of the disciplines in the university, it will become strange. It will become foreign and inaccessible except to a few people. But if you connect it to the disciplines, in effect, it becomes a normal subject that can be discussed in connection with any other department. This is the strategy I have been using for Islamic studies in America, which is too often viewed as a foreign, exotic, strange field that only a few people can understand. But it should be something that is part of the history collection, curriculum, the art curriculum, philosophy, and so forth. So that's one important aspect. I have asked myself, it's very interesting to think about what Kenan Rifai meant by talking about the connection of Sufism to the university. And I don't think that he had in mind a colonization of the university or turning a university into a tekke. You can have a tekke, you can have a Sufi center, it's a good thing. But it should be an opportunity to create a relationship and a new kind of inquiry that couldn't be done before. And what this means also is that the study of Sufism should not simply be the collection of authorities or the assembly of figures who are admired without any further reflection. This would be a kind of idol temple. Instead, what I think is necessary is to make it clear that this legacy, which is still only partially understood, there are so many major figures and texts which have not been examined, both in the distant past and even in very recent years. And these can be connected and put into the light of new investigations, and I think that they will reveal something quite extraordinary. So I propose the model of using the best of current scholarship from the different fields of research, including work that is being done on other religious traditions, where I think we can learn from the investigations of scholars who have studied the biographies of Christian saints, for instance. And we can understand better the way in which the lives of Sufi saints have been portrayed in writing. In the lectures we had, in the discussions we had this past week, we looked at many examples of the way that we can use new kinds of research. And I encourage the students to please don't think of yourself as being alone. It's not just you and Ibn Arabi. There are many scholars who can help you. And so if you want to do scholarship, find the work of the good scholars, take what is the best, and use that. So the beginning of this Institute for Sufi Studies is an auspicious occasion. I hope this will become a beacon for the most serious and valuable research which can be beneficial to people, not just here, but throughout the world. Thank you.
Ben bu sözlerden sonra hocamın
I would like, after his speech, I would like to remind you of a few lines from my teacher's verse. I am neither from you or from them, but I am from both of them. So that's the essence of Sufism. So you have to be together with everyone, but you have to be also unique and individual. So I think that's what Carl is trying to recommend. Without hating, we should actually get things that would benefit us most from each and every field. So this is the global language of Sufism, and that's the reason why Sufism is the language that would influence the whole world, because Sufism accepts everything. Everybody's understanding has got a certain level. So, as Carl very righteously stated, we should be able to use each and every method, not reject them, but make them unique and peculiar to us. I was faced with a criticism regarding Ibn Arabi. They said, but Ibn Arabi used all the philosophies. And I said, but Ibn Arabi made all the philosophies Muslim. So can we do that? Let's unite. And within this unity framework, we should be able to integrate all these studies within. And thus we will succeed, inshallah.
My favorite lover. I mean, he really love Allah. That kind of lover. Evet, bizim de hepimizin hedefi aynı.
And all of our target is the same. As Sachiko said, we are in love with Allah. We love Allah. Allah is the only existence to love. So that's one of the functions of the Institute. For example, we say in everything there is the manifestation of Allah. This is a literal statement that everyone can say, but when somebody does something against us and then we say we are enemies, what about Allah's manifestation in everything? So we have to actually put all the teachings of Tasawwuf into practice. And if we do not do so, then I cannot say that this institute can be successful. So I'm leaving the platform to James Morris.
I hope it's clear to everyone that we didn't know what we were talking about, and whatever we're doing is extemporaneous. That could mean inspired, but it could just mean we're repeating ourselves. So forgive me if I repeat myself. I'm amazed at the number of people here, because it makes me want to speak not only to people who are potential scholars and students, to people who are on a spiritual path, and we can imagine who most of you are here. There must be many people who are not perhaps consciously both
either of those things. I want to say something that's for all three groups. About last time, a week ago, I said something about communication and things that my youngest son had taught me. Well, the example I'm going to use, what I'm going to talk about is aspiration and the interplay of himma, himmat, that's the classical Sufi term for this. They often use the, I think, more accurate word of raqa'iq, the lines of light, or the lines are ties and threads of light that intertwine our lives with other people who've lived, from our perspective, historical perspective, long ago, far away, and so forth. And one concrete way I can start that, because when I come to something like this, I'm really reminded it. You'll notice I'm often asking people, so show me your name tag, or your name. You might think that's so I can remember it, but those who know me well know I forget these things almost as fast as I see them. So that's not really a very effective way of remembering the name. No, what I'm struck by when I ask about that or see people's names is I'm really struck by the himma, the aspiration that was in the parents to choose this particular name, and whether you think it's dictated by a family tradition or a grandparent, or whether it's actually a genuine new name that they've come up with. Everyone bears this spiritual sort of impetus and momentum that they're given at the very time of their birth. Of course, the name is only symbolic of much else that our parents are hoping for through each of us as we're born. And in that regard, what strikes me is I would just ask everyone to, beyond the words of scholarship and learning and whatever we teach about, there's such a thing as false modesty. It's a nice expression in English because it really means modesty that's not modesty, or adab that's not adab. And I say that because one of the things that I would want to say to everyone, and the younger you are, the more important it is don't assume that the truth and wisdom will be revealed to you sometime in the distant future. Everyone has that truth and that wisdom in their own heart, and it does not work to try and express that primarily through beliefs and words and trying to tell people in words, as whether it's the disputes between Sufi tariqas and religions and so forth. This often leads to worse misunderstanding when we try and approach that through words. But one of my teachers, well, a couple things came to mind in this regard. One is he said, I remember it was kind of the malfuzat, or recordings of things that he had said to his students. And one, somebody asked him, what is an arif? You know, we think a mystic, somebody who's really knowledgeable of God. And he said, the arif is the person that realizes that everyone is an arif. And everything I've experienced in life is that is very much the case. And the way we can communicate that is not so much, sometimes through words. You have to be lucky to be good at words and have good students and so forth. But above all, something else I remember he said when somebody asked him, well, you know, how do we teach our students? Our children, what do we teach our children? And he said, don't teach them ideas. They'll see, what they'll do if you do that is they'll immediately see all the times you contradict the ideas and ideals you were trying to teach them. Teach them by your example, by who you are. And if they follow that, and that's good for them, khush bahalashun. If they fail to follow that, that's their problem, not yours. Okay. So that is my spiritual advice very much here is I'm struck by how all through life we don't have to exhibit much false modesty because most of our students were just another teacher in another class we're teaching, and they rarely would, you know, if they appreciated it, after the course is over, hopefully. But be a living example. That's what I would really say. No matter what you are, live up to your own himma, live up to your own aspirations, and don't wait until you get older or wiser or somehow better situated in life to communicate those to the people around you. If you live up to who you are, that will have the most powerful and real and lasting impression on everybody you come in contact with. So that's my advice. So, since I usually begin with scripture, a hadith, or I just like to say one of the things we're reading was this wonderful hadith of the visit and the next life, or the hadith of the Dune of Musk, whatever. It's an image in the hadith about different levels of understanding of God, al-haq, reality. And it says the prophets and saints are in kind of their towers. They can see more when God comes to present himself to the souls. And most of us are down on ground level, sort of struggling to perceive what's going on around us. And Ibn Arabi applies this idea of himar aspiration there in interpreting that, and says that what the arif is really doing is the person who tries to understand the gods and beliefs of everyone they encounter. It's kind of what the highest aspiration you could have in religious studies is to understand the roots of the i'tiqad, the belief of everyone that we encounter. That primarily isn't outward beliefs. Above all, that's the unconscious beliefs that dictate our personality, or dictated by our personality and destiny and all. So parcel of that being a living example in your life, and not trying to teach others, just teaching by who you are, is to be above all a supreme listener. And again, I happen to be married to somebody who's much better at that than I am, and is my teacher every day. Some of my kids are better teachers. And so if you can live your aspiration, and if you can empathize and come to understand the aspirations of everyone, including, especially, as Cemalnur said, our enemies, or those we imagine to be our enemies, that's the hardest thing in life. And if you can do that, you're well on your way to being someone who will leave real traces in this world as well as in the world beyond. Thank you.
Hocam Mısri Niyazi Hazretleri'nin şu şeyini anlatmak istiyorlar gibi anladım ben.
Our professor is trying to tell us Mısri Niyazi's lines. That's what I thought. There is no enemy, because the real enemy is our nefs. We have only our nefs as an enemy. So when you get rid of yourself, there will be nothing but Allah. So if you try to understand people, I'm not calling this empathy. I'm saying we should be able to see things through their eyes. So when I actually had such a line in this life, I really realized sometimes how many faults I have. So then I try to rectify myself. I don't like this otherness because there is only one unity. Everybody has got different natural dispositions. So we should be thankful that God created us in different natural dispositions. Because we, as our teachers said, not only with their words, but with their states, with their behaviors, they are examples of us. Whatever our professors say in different forms are actually coming from the same source. So when I say, when my murshid is much better or greater than ours, no, we don't say that. We say we want to collaborate, we want to work together. So, and may Allah actually have auspicious outcomes out of this collaboration. Now the podium is yours, Mahmut, Erol, Kılıç, who is a very distinguished professor of us.
Salatu ve selamu ala seyyidina Muhammedin ve ala alihi. Vakti şerifler hayır olsun.
May all the time and states auspicious, and may all the evil go away. Our distinguished professors coming from local places and international places, and I'm really grateful for everyone who have thought, all the people who have organized this, especially Cemalnur Hoca, and as well as the admin of Uskudar University and our audience who's present here. Thank you so much for coming here. I would like to have a very brief talk by giving two examples. The first example is from Japan, Okinawa Island. There are priests living in Okinawa, belonging to Zen Buddhism sect, and they have their initiation and their own peculiar training, and within their framework of training, in order to fight against their nefs, their enemy, they put a theater play, something like a theater play, which is an illustration of movements in order to display their attempt in fighting against their nefs. So these attempts in movements are done with karate, with empty hands, which is a ritual. Kara means hand, te means, or just the opposite, empty. So a Western people come and see this karate, and they consider it as a sport. And so when such a ritual comes or becomes a sport, it actually loses its value of being sacred. So it becomes a fight, it becomes a performance, and it becomes a subject of some movies. In his youth, there is a person like myself who has actually increased to the second level of karate done. So that's why I started with karate. The second example is with the permission of Mevlevi family, Çelebi, from the Çelebis. The dervishes, as James Morris very emotionally explained, is based on the divine listening, to be able to listen to the divine voice. So the dervishes get together in order to perform this listening, and this place is called the place of unity, Tevhidhane, where Tevhid is practiced. So in this context, we do listenings, and that's why people call it the place of listenings. And that's why it's called Semahane. And in order for the listening to take place, certain movements happen. So we have doctrines and actions, doctrine and movements. So I don't want to delve into these philosophical issues, but keep it aside. Like namaz is a movement. There are certain movements, and it is like calling for the spirits. So please do not misunderstand my analogies, because like actions in namaz are like the activities calling for the spirits. So these dervishes in this closed place, they close the door. There is only one lamp, and the doors are closed, and they start zikr. One of the most universal movements is turning, and that's what they do. Without closing their eyes, they whirl, the Mevlevi dervishes whirl, by saying Allah. So you may be choosing or preferring to participate in the listening session of the dervishes, which means you either do sema or not. If not, then you can go out. So what I want to say is that there is no visitor of Sema. So Sema is not a performance, is not a performative art. So when the foreign people wanted to visit those ceremonies, and 3-5 people in the delegates, they started to come and watch, and just like in today's football match, there are only 22 people doing the sports and hundreds of thousands of people watch them. So the ones who watch the football does not mean that they are doing the football. So the real people who do the Sema are the people who do not just listen, they do it. So from the sacredness of a ceremony is stolen by turning it into a sport. So it's either a Sema that you do or you do not watch it. So there is no such a notion of watching it, because when you watch, you don't say, oh, how very nicely this person whirls, oh, how very nice the dress gets shaped as whirling, as if watching a horse race. No. And these are
Buradan varmak istediğim sonuç şu. Biz tasavvuf araştırmacıları, ben kendi adıma konuşuyorum. Biz tasavvuf akademisyenleri, ben kendim konuşuyorum, tasavvuf akademisyeni, profesör, doktor.
These are the misconceptions of the modernity. So, as a professor who is talking about these places, we are people who come and watch Sema. We do not do karate. So please know that. So we are doing sports. So we are watching the whirling dervishes, yes. And just like a journalist, we are giving you reports. Like we're saying Ibn Arabi is whirling better, or Ibn Arabi is shooting a goal much better than the others. So we are just spectators of the football match. But a real Sufi doesn't say that he or she is a Sufi. A real Sufi confides himself or herself. So Allah wanted to be known, and just only let that very person know the truth. So that's why working in the field of tasawwuf in academia is one of the most challenging things, because the reality, the essence is a sir, is a mystery. How can you publicize it? So there is hermetics, hermetic combi. There is a term in boiler, hermetic, and people go to the shops and is this boiler hermetic? So this hermetic boilers are actually boilers that boil inside of them. They don't get the air from outside. So when we transfer this into the field of sociology, hermetic groups are actually close to the outer world, so they are withdrawn within themselves. So let me clarify it. Let's say I am an MI6, or I'm writing a book about MI6, CIA, FBI. So you can only actually lick the jar from outside, whereas the MI6 member drinks it. So we have to really acknowledge this beforehand. So if you are a retired MI6 or a retired FBI officer, in this case you shouldn't actually talk if you are a real member. So perhaps after retirement you can say, I may share some of the things that I've experienced, and they start, when I was a CIA member, they may just share bits and pieces about their memories from the past. But what they transfer is not the whole thing. They transfer only little parts, and people may think that they have transferred the whole, or they have transmitted the whole truth to us. No. If you really become the member, it's only when you really become the member can you be revealed the truth, the whole truth. So academia is not a dervish lodge. We are not sheikhs. So I'm talking for myself. So as I told you, I'm just trying to, I'm just an interpreter trying to explain a sports or football match. So those of us like me should be very careful. We shouldn't be confusing things. Of course, tasawwuf is, like Muhyiddin Arabi says in Fütuhat-ı Mekkiye, in 10,000 page-long book. This is just a brief summary. It's 10,000 pages, 36 notebooks, but he says it's a brief summary. So I actually revealed what I was told only, but then after a while I stopped talking. So what does that mean? So this is what I was able to convey, but there are a lot of things that I am not allowed to convey. So through the writings, through the recordings that we have from Ibn Arabi, whatever is transmitted to us in written form, we take them. It's the same case in philosophy. So unfortunately there is a very wrong methodology in philosophy in Turkey. So when people say this is a direct philosophy, they are like Plato's Risales that says there are just notes taken before the presence of a sheikh. So if you sit before a sheikh, what you write down is actually, and when it's returned into a textual document, there is a decadence, there is a fall, there is a collapse in the meaning. That's why in Greek, Sophia, not Sophia, Philosophia, because Sophia is taken from the East, but when it's spoken out, when it's disseminated, when it's written, then it became Philosophia. When we come to the modern time, it is like Philosophia, which is devalued. We lost Sophia. In modern world, we lost the Sophia. I'm sorry, how much time do I have? As much as you have. Eyvallah. So, in conclusion, I'm talking in Turkish. Although our friend actually said Persian is sugar, and I will say Turkish is also an art, I would say. And I would like to add this as well, because Persian is sugar, but I said Turkish is art, but I would confess that Arab language, Arabic, is the language of the Prophet. I would like to underline this, the fact that those who are interested in Sufi studies, I have a piece of advice. Being intense in their emotional world and the problem of writing in academia, and these should be overcome. This is a serious problem these days. Oh, Professor, I love what I do. May Allah accept your love. You can love. That's okay. But what do you love? I love Ibn Arabi. I love this. I love that. Okay. Fine, no problem. But come and read a book of the person you love. I have some students here. I have a dervish student. One day I was talking about Vahdid-i Wujud. I was talking about the existence being derived from one single point. And knowledge was a dot and the ignorant multiplied it. I asked this in the exam. I looked at my students' exam. It was a blank paper. There was only a dot in the middle. I called my student. And this is a very difficult situation that you put me in, I said. And the student said, well, hocam, you say knowledge is a dot, all the rest is the work of the ignorance. So that's why I put a dot here. Well, okay, but my beloved brother, this is not a tekke, this is not a dervish lodge. You have to explain something. You have to write something on this paper so that I can give you a grade. Oh no, teacher, you can't give me. This is 100. I deserve 100, even perhaps 1,000 out of hundreds. So we have such dervishes, sweet dervishes as such. It doesn't matter which path or which tariqa he belonged to, but I had an experience as such. I say, come to the morning classes. Well, he can't wake up because they go to bed very late. Sohbet, spiritual discourse and so forth, but we have class at 9, but he doesn't show up. He comes in the afternoon. But then I say, look, my son, go and find this in the Islam library. Eyvallah, we will do it. But then at the end, gradually, my irritation started to increase. And I said, well, if you want to do it, do it. And then the teacher says, well, don't you say, teacher, professor, the world is empty. So why shall I do it? Well, if you think it's vain, it's empty, then why did you apply for this MA program? Oh, life is boş, life is empty, tasawwuf. So why should I go and research? So perhaps in the other fields such a challenge is not faced, but in the Western context, of course, in my American friends may not be actually confronting problems as such, but in Eastern cultures, we are faced with extremely emotional students. I'm not actually looking down on them. Sentimentalism is something that I do not exclude. I do believe that we should have our sentiments. I'm not a very rationalist person. I apologize from Sinan Hoca, but so what does it mean? This is an Arabic saying. Every word has a station and every square has a soldier. So this is actually an institute that does Sufi research. So you have to write, read, you have to do your research. So you can do your dervishhood, you can serve as a dervish in your tekke, but here this is an academia. So please, may I just please have your empathy and pity on us, my beloved students, and don't make us suffer, and respect your elderly and try to benefit from them as much as you can. And when you come to a place like this, to an academic institution, at least you should be able to sit in the spectators' balcony to see how these Sufis play in this match and what can I learn in such a match. Thank you so much.
Şimdi laf düşmez pek çok güzel anlat hocam. Çok değiller.
It's not something that I should say, but they're not too many, right? They're very little. And one thing that our professor here taught us, just like he has righteously mentioned, you can only become a true Sufi, true mutasawwif, only when you fulfill the task, when you do this thing and bring out a synthesis with the theoretical, scientific side and applied active side, and everybody needs to use this learning in their own path of life. Let's say if she's a businesswoman, then she needs to integrate this to her business life. An economist takes this into his field of work in economy. Otherwise, we would lose the totality, the holistic side of it. Just like our Prophet said, you're going to be the best father as well as the best businessman. Only when you manage to become the best of everything that you are, you will become a true Sufi. Let us pray that we shall benefit at the highest possible way from our very valuable professors. I even tell this to Kerem, to my son. This is a major opportunity. Talk to all of our professors and learn everything you can learn from them, and use those learnings in your theses, and let God be content with them. None of them ever refuse the students. I would like to thank all of our professors and want to ask if there's anything they'd like to contribute or add or comment or elaborate.
Because
Carl will need to go back today, and we never say the last, but his final class for now in Istanbul. Let God allow us to bring us all back together. If they would please give us the honor, can our beloved Esin Çelebi share her ideas and opinions about our institute? That would really honor us. Can we please ask you to the podium, Madam? I would like to also repeat the same thing what our professor said. I really have no idea about what I'll be saying, just like our professor said, but this crowd here is living proof for me that this institute is very, very successful. MashaAllah, let God increase this number. Let God make you and your friends' service to God permanent. Our professors really work hard, but I think, just like Ms. Cemalnur Hoca mentioned, just about 2 years ago, they have invited me to India, and in that program we had participants from every religion. They were guests of honor, and every religion recited their own prayer in their own language. And since I was the only lady in that gathering, there was an initiation of the gathering fire, and they gave me that honor to lit the fire. Just like Ms. Cemalnur Hoca said, God willing, in the future we can bring together people from all beliefs, faiths, and religions. Let them tell us about their religion. That is very important. the most important aspect of us being together every day is everybody needs to learn their own religion very well at first, a prerequisite, and then study on the similar sides or aspects of religion so that we can hear about the commonalities, the similarities of religions rather than the difference and conflicts. I need to use my advantage coming from Hazreti Pir. I would like to wrap up my words with the advice of Hazreti Pir to his son Bahauddin. Bahauddin, if you want to be permanently in heaven, be friends with everyone. Don't ever have vengeance for anyone in your heart. Don't ask for much. And don't be much more than anyone. Be like an ointment. Be like a candle. Don't be like a needle. If you don't want any bad from anyone to come to you, don't be a bad sayer, don't be a bad teacher, don't be a bad thinker. Don't be thinking, saying or teaching bad. If you think of someone with friendship, then you will always be in joy, and that joy is heaven itself. If you remember someone with sorrow, then you will always be in sorrow, which is hell itself. When you remember your friends, your garden of the heart will blossom. It will be filled with roses and basil. When you remember your enemies, your garden of your heart is filled with thorns and snakes. You get bothered, you get stuffed, and you become in despair. All the good velis have done this. They reflected the beauty that they have inside to the outside, and that is why the public, the people had become bedazzled by them, and that is what made them their followers and disciples. Eyvallah.
Efendim çok şanslıyız ki bunu da Hazreti Pir'in sözleriyle kapatıyoruz.
We are very lucky that we are ending here with the words of Hazreti Pir. May Allah make us to put all these things into practice, and may Allah enable our unity. I would like to say this. Now, when I wanted to establish a chair in China, and the person who actually helped us was Professor Du Weiming, who is a professor of Confucian studies. He once asked me what Kenana Rifai was, and he said, yes, we know you through our friends, but who is Kenana Rifai? And I had a notebook that belonged to my teacher, Kenana Rifai, and my mother was actually keeping this notebook, and the first thing was about the Confucian teaching. So Kenana Rifai actually integrated all these things and put tasawwuf above all, but tasawwuf philosophy is not from any kind of philosophy, but from including all of them. So when you actually love everyone, gather everyone, respect everyone, then the real target, the real objective of tasawwuf will be realized. And within our inner self, let us be a spot, but within our outer parts, let us be the one to talk. Thank you very much. Elif, do you have anything to add? Because you are the heroine of this institute, the producer, the one who does everything about the institute. You are a blessed gift from Allah to me.
Efendim Allah hocalarımızın canlarına sağlık versin.
May Allah give our professors health and may we have them inshallah. And the only thing we asked is to have a photograph together. Will it be a passport photo, one by one?
Ona da ihtiyaç var.
We also need that as well because one day we will show in the other world this is our acquaintance and we will pass the course by this.